Hi guys, this is Simon from writtenlegalenglish.com and welcome to this video where I'm going to give you my thoughts, my suggestions about how I would redraft the sentences I asked you to think about on Tuesday. So let's get started. Okay, so these are the two sentences I asked you to think about, and I asked you to think about the main messages, can you make it simpler, and can you remove any unnecessary text. If you haven't seen Tuesday's video, then pause the video now, think about those sentences quickly, and then come back to the video, and I'll go through how I would redraft those sentences. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so this is the first sentence I asked you to have a look at, and it probably didn't take you long to realise that the person who wrote this really didn't think about the person who has to read it, because this is not written in a normal way. And when I say that, sometimes it's good to think about your writing as if it was a conversation. So let's imagine that this is a conversation between the bank and a client. So if the client had a question, it would probably be something like, how long do you keep my data for? And that's a fantastic way to write. If you write headers in the form of questions, then this matches the way that people think. People think about questions in a question form. They don't think about questions they want to ask in an abstract form. So no one would ever think about a question and say data retention period. People would think, okay, well, how long, if I give my data to the bank, how long does the bank keep my data for? So this technique of using subheaders and headers in a question form is really, really good. It's really, really reader friendly, and it's great for SEO as well. So if you're thinking about your website in terms of how Google looks at your website, then using headings in a question form is really good for Google. Okay, so let's trial that out. Let's pretend that I'm the client and let's ask the bank how long they keep my data for. So, how long do you keep my data for? Your personal data will be retained no longer than until you withdraw your consent. What the hell does that mean? I've got no idea at all. However, if the bank answered me in a different way, so how long do you keep my data for? We keep your data until you withdraw your consent for us to keep it. Then suddenly I know everything and it's a lot clearer. So why don't we just write in that way? So we could improve this text. We could just say, how long do we keep your data for? We keep your data until you withdraw your consent for us to keep it. It should be written that simply, and it should be written that simply because it's that much easier to understand. And for the second sentence, we can apply exactly the same test. We can imagine what it would be like if someone actually spoke in this way. So if someone said, I give my consent to be contacted by phone, by the bank, for the purpose of presenting marketing information in telephone conversations. No one would realistically say that. So why would anyone think that this is appropriate writing? Business writing, legal writing, academic writing, general writing, it doesn't make a difference. This is not appropriate writing. It does not reflect reality in any way. So when I asked you to think about simple messages and the main message and can you get rid of any unnecessary information, then you really can in this example, because you could just redraft this to say, I give my consent for the bank to contact me by phone to present marketing information. This is much more naturalized, much more normal in every sense of normal, and we get rid of stupid language which isn't necessary. For example, if you're phoning me, then there's going to be a telephone conversation, so I don't really need to say in telephone conversations. So there's lots of tautology, lots of unnecessary language that we can simply get rid of if we think about what is the simple main message. Okay, I hope you found the video useful. I hope there were some hints and tips that you could take away there. Those hints and tips are things that I regularly repeat on my channel about keeping the message simple, keeping it professional, and thinking about the reader. If you do those 3 things, you will already be improving your writing skills. Also, if you check out my videos, particularly the one that I release on Wednesday from my course, and listen to the teaching points there and use those teaching points in your writing, then you will be a few steps ahead in terms of developing your writing skills. Those videos on Wednesday are from my online course. You can get access to my online course on Patreon, where you can get access to questions that you can download. You can get access to the answer videos where I go through those questions and have a slightly deeper discussion about the teaching points in those videos. So if you haven't already, check me out on Patreon. And if you don't want to check me out on Patreon, make sure that you follow me on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Okay, guys, I'll see you soon.